there, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. And yeah, we are getting into something a little bit different. Now, if you may have noticed, I have actually popped up two videos earlier today, one this morning and one just a few hours ago in regards to Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I hope you do take some time, if you have not had an opportunity, to take a watch of those videos and provide your comments and share your thoughts about those respectively in the comment sections for both videos. I definitely would love to be in communication with you about that show. There's so much going on there. Well, for this video, we are going to be talking about two ladies who couldn't be further from being anywhere near similar in any way of how they act, conduct themselves, you name it. The differences just amount to so much. But unfortunately, they are both going into a stage of life that is similar, which is separation and divorce, right? Ultimately, divorce being the maybe bingo card winning element for both. Possibly, we shall see. At this point, I thought that it was a possibility that maybe Porsha and Simon could get back together, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And if you've been paying attention with this situation, you will see probably the same thing. They would have saw it from the very beginning. I have not actually talked about Porsha or Simon on my platform as of yet, but you do know, if you've been around for a while here with me, I absolutely adore Real Housewives of Atlanta, which is where, of course, I was able to first be introduced to Porsha, like many people have. And I have quite enjoyed watching the show with her as an additional person to the show, and then a full-on cast member, and then all through the years and all through the things that are going on. Lastly, as she was really walking out the door, you know, she got herself with Simon, and we're not going to go into all the particulars of how that happened. But we all know that famously Simon was actually on the show with one other individual, and that did not work out. And all of a sudden, Porsha had popped up with him. Now, for me personally, I didn't necessarily think that this was going to be a recipe for success as a marriage is concerned. But, you know, at the end of the day, these people are, as I say, grown, and they are able to make their own decisions. And we're just here to delight in watching as long as they're showing it. So at this point, I thought, well, this was a good positioning place to kind of jump into the thing of what is going on here. It's been obviously ongoing for quite some time. I kind of feel like this divorce seems to be one of those ones that are going to stretch out longer than the actual time frame that they were married. I believe they were married for about 1.5 years or something like that. So maybe a little less than that. They had three spectacular weddings. I mean, it was a beautiful sight to behold when it came to celebration, but for things to just kind of whisper out so fast, it just was a little bit astonishing to me. But for others, they kind of felt that they saw this coming. Maybe was kind of shocked that it lasted as long as it did. So that being said, yeah, I was a little surprised at some elements, but you know, it's been quite comical in some aspects, and some comical aspects have not been so comical. That doesn't make sense. It's been comical in some aspects, and some aspects not so comical. Okay, so that being said, you know, look, Simon, you know, he's obviously, there's been a lot of chatter surrounding his status here as a resident in these United States. So we'll see how that all unfolds for him. I think for the most part, he's still here. I don't know anything different. If you have any familiarity to that aspect more, then welcome to share it down below if you like. And yeah, so we'll see how that all plays into the part. Now, we do know that Porsha has been away from Real Housewives of Atlanta for a few years now, a few seasons to boot. And it was a welcome breath of fresh air to see her coming back to the show. It appears that things are all systems a go for her to continue on with the plans of being on the show. But there was a lot of things going on about that aspect as well. Like, for instance, where was she going to film? Because apparently the house that she was living in with Simon, I guess, wasn't necessarily her house. It was Simon's. And so there was a big battle between that. Simon didn't want anything of his likeness apparently showed on RHOA, and that included the house and the dwelling. Therefore, that would be a little bit of a peculiar situation for Porsha to actually endure in order to continue what she was doing. I think there was other things that he did not want to have done or stated about him or their situation, which would take a lot away from her storyline, presumably. So I think a lot of those things are still being worked out. How it ends up will be interesting to see. But I am here for all of it. I do hope that whatever it is, it doesn't stop her ability to actually be on the show. So we'll see how that all goes. And then we also have Angela, and I'll go into a little bit more of Angela's situation, but I'll just give you the point here. You know, she's saying that she's running money dry, right? That everything is being drained. The banks are being drained. I ain't got no money. Well, I'm not going to take that on, but that's what she's saying. And one guess who she's blaming that on. We'll just wait. So you hold that guess until we get to that quick sharing here. But back to Porsha and Simon, and maybe the sanity of the two is crazy as this topsy-turvy situation has been. Let's get into what Porsha is feeling as maybe a possible win, but then I saw somewhere where Simon said it really wasn't a win. So we're going to get into it a little bit here. And I definitely would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. So please feel free to share those. It's quite interesting, you know, the battling back and forth that they have done. And still, I don't think there's any real resolution in sight. But I do believe that, well, I don't know. I did see that Porsha, I think she left her home that we are very familiar with, that we saw mostly featured out on RHOA. I believe that might be with her mother now. So I don't know how that's going to work out for her as far as filming is concerned. I know the home that she was living with Simon was a beautiful home as well. So where this goes or where this leads, who knows? But I'm here for all of it. And I am sure if you're interested in this and find joy and entertainment in the information, then you'll be there for it too. So let's go ahead and get into this win that apparently Porsha is fallen upon, because it didn't seem like she was doing a lot of winning over this time frame. But you know, look, you can't count people out. You just can't count people out. So let's go ahead and get into that. And it appears that this sharing is coming from people.com, because, you know, people is a place for everything, or at least most things anyways. So according to people.com, Porsha Williams apparently was granted a huge victory in the ongoing divorce case against Simon Gabodia, I think is how you say it. Now, the court does not find merit in husband's argument. A new judgment in Williams' divorce reads. Porsha Williams was awarded a big victory in her divorce from Simon Gabodia in the latest ruling in the case. The court granted Williams her request to quash Gabodia's subpoena and request for a videotape deposition of her employer, True Entertainment, along with a motion for a protective order. Interesting enough, because I think Simon has been doing a lot to try to get all of the information that he could possibly get as far as her earnings and what is, you know, she acquired over time. There's been a huge debacle with that. If you know more about that, feel free to share your thoughts down below on that, because I'd like to know myself a little bit more. But that's a lot of what I was hearing. He really wanted to stick it to the situation. I'm sure it has something to do with spousal support and also the prenup. If there was a prenup, I think there might have been a prenup. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, if you are aware of it, if there was one and all those types of things, go ahead and feel free to leave those down below in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate it. And I guess apparently he also had a motion for protective order against her too. I don't know if that's to keep her out of that house. I'm not sure, because I don't know if he's still living in it himself, but I believe it's in his name. Now, a judge also denied Gabodia's emergency motions regarding discovery and awarded Williams attorney's fees and expenses of litigation to be paid by Gabodia. So interesting point. We talked a little bit about this for Andy Cohen and his situation with Leah, where part of the issue is that he was trying to put a motion, or did put a motion in, to dismiss back in May for that lawsuit, because at this point in time, discovery is needed, right? And discovery is getting all the information that gives them basically the evidence to help support their case. And of course, it could be a very taxing, can also be a very damaging prospect to deal with when you're dealing with getting information for the other side, because that's what discovery really is. It's to put all your things in place, but put it out there in the open for everybody to transparently see. So I can see that there will be definitely an opportunity here where there's going to be discovery requests all over the place. But from what I understood, it seemed like Simon was the one asking for it the most. Yeah. And then litigating the rest of his feelings about it on social media. So the fact that he has lost that motion, I think is great. And that the attorney fees and expenses of the litigation associated with this motion will be paid by him. So I'm sure that's a great relief to Porsha. So yeah, that probably is a great win, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of motions going on between both of them at this point. But I do feel he's probably leading the pack in that, because I kind of feel like there's an essence of trying to stick it to her for whatever reason may be. I'm sure there's tons of reasons to say why that is. Now, the filing also pertains to their prenuptial agreement. So there you go. They did have a prenuptial agreement. Now, according to the docs, Gubadia argues that wife desire to return to reality television or employment in the future constitutes a non-disclosure of material fact and misrepresentation that renders the prenuptial agreement unenforceable. That is quite interesting. So what I'm getting from this is that he's saying that her desire, not that if she really would or not, but just if she had the thought of potentially going into continuing on her flight as a reality star, then he's supposed to get a piece of that pie too. Because I'm pretty sure when you came to the point of the prenup, you're putting your kind of your eggs of what is what in the monetary value point in that agreement. And so if your desire, as he's saying, was to go back into that later on, then that means more money could be available to me, and therefore it could be unenforceable, because maybe I'm trying to get you in a gotcha moment because you were playing me. Now, this is my words and my feelings and my thoughts about how this could look. You were playing me at the time. You had no intention, this is what you're telling me, of doing X, Y, and Z, all along knowing that you probably were going to do it. And so that being said, you came here under pretenses and false pretenses, and signing and not of good faith, right? Those would be all the type of terminology that be associated with that. And therefore it's not enforceable because you just simply have the desire in that moment that you were going to do this. Now, how did he understand that to be? Was it that he just feels that's what it was? Was it that the separation came before the option that was going to take place of her being back on the show again? I'm thinking that there was a crossfeed between the two. I'm feeling that we actually found out about Porsha coming back to RHOA and maybe even some other ventures, because there was something that she's supposed to be doing with Nene as well that didn't work out. But I'm feeling that those things came out before it was announced, before we got the information about the separation, then pending divorce from Porsha and Simon. So therefore, I would imagine the pending divorce aspects were in play, but just not advertised to everybody, because there was a lot to concede in their situation. And I believe there was maybe a possible feeling on Porsha's end of being duped and not realizing certain things about her husband that she felt that she should have known beforehand, and felt that she was, in all intents and purposes, played, and she wanted to get out of it, and get out of it as much as she could possibly get, which in most cases when people get divorced, that's the concept for the most part, to get as much as you can out of the situation. Everybody's win is not always going to be the same, but nevertheless, maybe the house was something she wanted. Maybe she didn't want to make sure to give him any more money. Maybe there was other things that were also a part of that situation. His immigration status also is a big deal. That could be some things that are associated with that immigration status. I think there was some accusations or allegations of some misdealings that could potentially get him removed out of the country. These are the things that I think were percolating in their process that brought them to the point of where she could no longer stay in this situation. But of course, all things alleged, and I don't know if anything has really sorted itself out as it plays into that situation. And it may take some time because, you know, things do have to go through the government as well when you're talking about immigration status. So well, I guess we'll see as time goes on. Now, the addressing Gubadia's claims that Williams agreed to be a stay-at-home mom, there you go, and wife during their marriage and forego her own career, the court found them to be invalid. So there you go. I mean, I didn't even see that, right? I'm kind of reading this along with you guys at the same time for the first time. I'm really getting into it. I mean, obviously I had an idea of what I'm talking about, but as far as line by line, not this time. And sometimes it's kind of nice to have, you know, those kind of first reaction moments and then looking down further and saying, oh, that's exactly where we were at. So yes, it makes sense. And quite frankly, when you saw the weddings and all that kind of stuff, I kind of felt like there was a bit of, I think she's going to be, you know, living the lap of luxury that he is able to provide. So that's what he's saying. Look, you promised me that you were going to be a stay-at-home mom. You promised me that you were going to basically forego all that career and take care of your kid and my kids and whatever else of my needs that was going to need to be dealt with. I was going to handle all the financial situation because that's what I thought you were going to do. And therefore, that means you're bringing less money to the table when it comes to the prenup. But deep down, you knew that you were going to do something later on. And I find that to be interesting, because here's the thing, not saying that there isn't a position in which Porsha would feel like she wasn't going to go back to work or continue on with her career, because I never think that she ever left her career. I think she just had some pauses there. The bottom line is, you met Porsha when she was really kind of in that heyday of her career. You remember, she was previously married before to another gentleman. I don't recall his name, and it's not necessary. But the bottom line is, she was a stay-at-home mom situation there as well, but not a mom, excuse me, a stay-at-home wife at that time, because she hadn't had her daughter at that point. And, you know, things started to quickly unravel, I think, within that relationship. And of course, a lot of expectations were not met. Whether it was or wasn't in reality for those two, it just didn't work out. And I feel like she had really claimed a certain sense of identity as well as independence when she moved from that relationship. So I find it really difficult in the way that she was going, when she had the hairline, she had a couple other businesses in the show itself. Then you started seeing her on Dish Nation. And then she's also done quite a few different spinoff shows with Bravo as well. And so it really seemed to me a little bit more of a nuanced type of thing if you thought that she was not going to do anything. And now she has a daughter, right? She's definitely seems like a very independent spirit to me. So therefore, she's going to make sure that she's taking care of her daughter as well. And I don't think that relying on a partner was going to be the direction she was going to go, because of maybe her past experience. And look, it didn't work out before, so there's no guarantees. And look at where we are right now. And I believe she was married to her first husband longer than this second husband situation. So here we go. Now, the court did not find merit in this argument, as the court finds that wife has been a reality TV celebrity for years. There you go. There you go. There you go. I love having the verifications, which was well known to husband. There you go. I swear to you, I didn't read that part. I'm just going off of what it is, right? Like the rest of us. At the time of negotiating the prenuptial agreement, and husband nevertheless married wife with this knowledge. So again, it doesn't really matter what's been said to you. The bottom line is, it shouldn't have been far-fetched that she may continue to go back into this, form of work, or work period, or build back on her career. There's just no way she was going to step aside. She's a businesswoman. I don't think she gave up her business elements or anything that was outside of the actual, personality aspect, meaning cast member for whatever the case may be. I see her maybe even doing movies if she wanted to, whether it be on Tubi or BET Plus or, Netflix, whatever. I see the sky's the limit for her in that reign. And, at the end of the day, she is a sought after individual too, for a lot of different reasons. And so it just made no sense to me that he would think that she would just stay at home and do nothing. I mean, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyways, after starring on Bravo's The Real Housewives of Atlanta from seasons 5 to 13, Williams left in September 2021, 4 months after they had announced their engagement in May of 2021. Earlier this year, it was announced she would be returning for the upcoming 16th season. In the couple's prenuptial agreement, it states that its a central purpose is to avoid contested and expensive litigation, including the costly and potentially intrusive discovery process if an event of dissolution occurs. Well, there you go. So he signed to that himself in his own prenup agreement. We're not going to sit here and belabor the point of using the court system as a weapon and cost us more litigation, more money, more time over this situation if this marriage doesn't work. So, I mean, that sounds fair to me. The ruling reads that the court finds it undisputed by both parties that the prenuptial agreement at issue in this case was negotiated by the parties with very competent lawyers over a year length of time, and included the exchange of financial disclosures such as the issues of fraud, mistake, misrepresentation, and duress are clearly addressed in multiple revisions of the prenuptial agreement. So the questions are you feeling that you're under duress signing this? In certain locations, we're coming to find out that you actually need a period of time before signing that prenup for it to really truly be not a position of being contested at a later point. So if someone feels that they were made to sign something, that could be an issue that you can come up with later on to use as the situation dissolutions, especially if someone's trying to take something from you or you felt that it wasn't a fair prenup to begin with. But when we're talking about competent lawyers and we're talking about situations in which if he's a businessman, whether he's a, a scrupulous, ethical one is not the question here. He clearly knows his way around legalities, right? And so would she. She's been in this position of being a wife before and going through what it was to divorce. There's no way, with all the things that Porsha had accrued and accrued, that's not the word I'm looking for, but has, you know, I want the word. With all the things that she's accrued over the time, there's no way she was going to just give that up, right? She wasn't just going to hand that over to anybody. So, you know, she had to really pull things together for herself. So that makes perfect sense. And he has been married several times before. I cannot imagine that he's done this kind of full out litigation on every single one of those marriages. I mean, that would be quite exhausting. And I would then start to look at him as to what's the reason for you doing this? Anyways, essentially, the crux of husband's argument could have been explicitly contained within the four corners of the parties' prenuptial agreement, and it was not. It continued, right? So we all know, excuse me, that contracts, you can only enforce them, and they're only enforceable within the four corners, okay, of that contract. So that's something that we learn in many things and in anything that deals with contract, period. So very well said and argued. And I wonder if he already kind of knew that and was just testing the situation again with the extended litigation of things. Now, this is a major victory for RHOA star, bringing her to the final step of divorce proceedings. Once the couple's prenuptial agreement is officially upheld by the court, Williams will be awarded her legal expenses by Gubadia and walk away a single woman. And I think that's at this point the best that can happen, right? Now, because the documents specify that serving, conducting, or attempting to serve or conduct any discovery whatsoever, either upon, toward the other party, or upon, toward any third party, including written discovery, taking depositions, and issuing subpoenas, violates the prenup. Williams contested Gubadia's actions and the court ruled in her favor. I mean, it literally was in writing, very well put together, because whether or not whatever space they were in, somebody got a little bit emotional, didn't they? It's literally in black and white. We're not litigating these things. We're not going to put into place things after the fact just because it's a whim that you think you have, or you feel like, I mean, I could just say anything, right? I could just say, I feel like you wanted to be an astronaut, or I feel like you were going to take on this situation. It's not based off the feeling, it's based off of what is there at the time. And if you put in place, which I think was great protections, that we're not going to belabor a situation, we're going to just put everything up front on here, make a decision, and then move forward with that. Why are we doing prenups if you're able to contest them all over the place? If it's there, it's there, you know? So I think that's really great. And it seems like they really did have a really good way of putting all those things in place. I don't know if all prenups are done as well as these, but this one was really well done. Now, Williams first filed for divorce in February after 15 months of marriage. At the time, a source told People the split was due to an ongoing matter. Williams listed their marriage as irretrievably broken. Now, the two began the back and forth filings after disagreeing over the validity of their prenup. Interesting. The occupancy of their marital home and Williams' financial standing, given her recent scripted development deal with NBC Universal, were also points of contention. So, quite frankly, I just feel like that's all this was about anyways. He didn't want to give up anything, and he wanted to take whatever he could. I mean, allegedly, obviously, but that's kind of just my thoughts about that. He may say differently. Now, in the midst of the legal battle, the reality TV personality slammed Gubadia for making false statements and allegations that are intentionally misrepresenting the reality of the situation. You know, I don't know if she's trying to hold on to certain things like the home or not. Obviously, there's some litigations, details containing that. Hopefully they'll work it out and move on from the situation, because who needs to keep on hanging out with that? Because it's just too much, really. And hopefully she will find what she needs to find and can move forward. But I'm thinking he feels that, you know, look, there was such anticipation for Porsha to come back onto the fold. And maybe he's thinking, oh, wow, this could really be something. So I want to get a piece of that too. Well, maybe better luck next time, I guess. But I guess this will be a tale that will continue to unwind. But hopefully this will bring them a little bit closer, as Sharon said, to the end of this situation. And maybe it would even be helpful if it was prior to Porsha starting RHOA, because at the end of the day, all this upkeeping and interference from Simon is just going to make it harder for production to move forward with the storylines that I think that there to be. Now I question how much of that storyline we're going to get to know. So that will be up to Porsha to figure that out, I guess, on what she's going to share. But I am definitely here for it. And, Porsha's my girl. I like Porsha. Look, it is what it is. She's funny to me and she makes good TV. So that's all that really matters at this point. Yep, I'm just that shallow. So that being said, I definitely want to know your thoughts in regards to this last finding. I know Simon said it wasn't really a win. I don't know really why he said that. My guess is maybe because he's like, well, it was in the prenup. Well, then why bring her to this situation? It looks like a win to me. So, tell me your thoughts about that respectively down below in the comment section. Let's have a conversation about it. And any other details that you may know or familiar about or been reading about or listening about or all that good stuff, feel free to share it and let's conversate about it below as well. It just seems like a real tricky situation that really could just come to an end. I mean, honestly, this again, when I think about these short marriages where they have these divorce things that take longer than the marriage, like, come on, right? But maybe there's a lesson to be learned. You can't just marry every and anybody, right? But that's what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to I mean, this lady needs no introduction, does she? I mean, my goodness, it's on and on to the break of dawn with this one. So we're moving on from RHOA Bravo to 90-day TLC family. Now, at this point, we all know that the relationship is over, okay, between Angela and Michael. At the end of the day, it should have never happened. I'm glad that Michael is moved on from this situation, apparently, at least physically. I think that was something he should have done a long time ago. I think many people are definitely split on how and the reasons that was going to happen for him. Some people feel like he was there for a green card. I think most people now are kind of changing their thought process. You still have people who feel that he used her one way or another anyways. But I think some people are seeing just the continued abusive manner in which is shown to us through the many seasons of 90-Day Happily Ever Afters, and now this finale that was like a 5-part tell-all situation with the groups in the actual season in a house living together with all of their issues and all of their concerns. And it just seems like the dominating factor in the chaos was Angela Deem. So I did not watch in full capacity because but so much of that I can watch and listen to. I have done quite a few stories, obviously, about Angela and Michael because I used to be a 90-day watcher. For the most part, I used to love all of the shows The Other Way, Happily Ever After. I've shared this many times over. And I've always felt that this was a very tricky relationship in the beginning, but only in the beginning, and then it should have been ended years ago. But Michael's here now in the States and he's living his best life, I guess. I hear that he did a GoFundMe to kind of help him with some of his expenses and probably more or less the legal aspect of those expenses, because didn't Angela say something else? She has a lawyer that's $10,000 an hour, so take that and look at this situation. He took that and people actually were helping him out because you can't get anywhere being evil. You can't get anywhere being nasty. It never works out. Even if it does in the short term, I promise you, it will not continue in the long term. And all you're doing is getting much more tired doing the process. And I do mean inside and out. So at this point, it looks like Michael is smiling from ear to ear just on the aspect of really living his now American dream. And quite frankly, he's freaking earned it, dealing with the likes of the situation that he has dealt with. And that's just my feelings on that. I just am so happy to see that this is probably not going to continue on as a coupledom anymore. I mean, the things that I've heard and the things that I have read and even things that I have covered, just god awful. There's just no other way of putting it. Well, there's probably many other ways you can put it too, but we're just going to stick with that because we're still in, trying to be in that positive space. But it really was god awful. And I'm just so glad that there's been some wake up calls done. I think more things could have been done. I hear that TLC is being very much criticized for their handling of how the house situation went with the individuals and the couples living together and a lot of the berating that took place. I would love to know your thoughts if you are a 90-day watcher. I'm sure that people are very sympathetic and empathetic to Angela's plight. Maybe for some cases I can see it, because I definitely feel like there's some issues there with Angela that she definitely needs to, and they are long-standing, but to address. She may not agree with that, and that's perfectly fine as well too. It doesn't really matter to me one way or another. I continue to keep living my life, and so do you. So that being said, I do wish them both well, because they do need to get well, and they need to get gone from each other. And so here we go. And I don't know how it's going to work out for Michael for the end, but I tell you what, all of that abusive conversation, arguments, toxicity, just all out nastiness cannot personally go into good favor. Now, some may say maybe this is all for TV, and maybe a good portion of it is, but I don't know. Some of it seems kind of real to me, that this is just who you are. And I mean, you can't be playing with that kind of space and thinking you're not going to get something on you, right? And at this point, I just think that we need to just put a pin in this relationship as far as it continuing together. Now, we can keep talking about all the things about it, because I'm going to tell you right now, this was definitely their relationship, a good conversational piece for social experiment, for many different topic areas that we can cover. We will not go through all those here in this video, but I definitely want to talk about the fact that Angela says she is broke, and there's only one person she's going to blame, which is probably the person she blames for everything negative in her life. That's going to be Michael. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so now, according to Monsters and Critics, Angela Deem has no money because Michael drained her bank accounts. He took it all. All right. Angela Deem is broke thanks to her ex, Michael Elisami. I am hoping I did not break that name. That's what the 90 Day Fiance personality claims anyway. Angela recently said her bank account is empty because Michael swindled her out of all her cash. Now, in a recent TikTok, the 58-year-old Hazelhurst, Georgia native shared a headline that read, 90 Day Fiance's Angela faces court battle, bank account frozen, and dramatic twist. A voiceover in the video stated Angela Deem from 90 Day Fiance has had her bank account frozen by court order. Angela then appeared in the video to share her version of events, because you know she's got it, claiming that Michael wiped out her money. Angela says Michael took all of her money. Girl, stop lying. What bank account? He took it all, Angela told her followers, insinuating that Michael drained her funds. I have no bank account. I have no money in my account, she continued, asking again, what bank account? In the comment section of her TikTok, Angela's fans and followers showed their support for their controversial 90 Day Fiance star, because she does still have her supporting fans. One such follower urged Angela to sue these people for defamation. Now, Angela hints at a GoFundMe to sue critics for defamation. Interesting. In response, Angela had mocked Michael's recent GoFundMe, which he created to raise money to cover his legal fees, which has since raised over $52,000. And I do believe that may be closed now. So, wow, way to go, Michael. Angela hinted that as her fans suggested, she might start a crowdsourcing platform to raise money to sue her critics for defamation. Wow, that sounds really familiar. Angela replied, yes, I need to start GoFund for the social media suits, with the laughing emojis, crying laughing emojis. Yeah, okay. Now, is Angela really hard up for cash? Whether or not Angela is suffering financially is in question. Her social media activity suggests that she isn't that bad off and likely still has a steady income stream. For one thing, she can still afford cosmetic injections such as Botox and filler. Her latest visit to the Dolce Aesthetics in New York was just last month. Look, going to New York alone, you need to have a little bit of money in your bank account. Now, Angela has also earned an income partnering with several brands on social media in recent years, including a Boombod and a Regine Life X. Okay. The grandmother of 6 also offers paid fan experiences on fan basis, makes paid appearances at events, and previously worked as a nursing assistant in a hospice center before shooting to fame on reality TV. And I had kind of wondered if she was still doing that, but my thoughts were probably not. Now, after Angela had filed for a marriage annulment, Michael countersued, asking for a divorce. In his filing, Michael asked for spousal support and that his and Angela's assets be divided equally. The Nigerian native also requested that Angela pay his attorney fees and cost of litigation incurred in this proceeding, although he raised funds on GoFundMe to cover his legal fees. Now, perhaps Angela's video is a way to proactively protect her finances and hide her assets, knowing that she could be shelling out big bucks to Michael amid their legal battle. And of course, 90 Day Fiancé Happily After is what? Currently on hiatus. Now, here's my thought on a couple of things here. They talk about the fact that, one, she wanted an annulment and Michael wanted a divorce. And I believe with the annulment, as we see it here, for the most part, you know, when you do an annulment, you do it within 6 months of the marriage, it makes it null and void, right? It makes it as if it never existed. So therefore, there's a lot of things that you will not lose out on, potentially, that you could if you did a divorce. It also challenges the legitimacy, I believe, when it comes to situations such as Michael and Angela, where she has now brought him over from another country and he's still going through his immigration status, no doubt. Now, as we all know, famously, if you've watched and kept up with the show at any point in time in regards to their story in particular, it took Michael a very long time to actually get here to the United States. Why that is, I don't know. Now, they went through 2 or 3 different modalities, I think, to actually get him over here. And this is the last one that actually worked, which is her actually getting married over there in Nigeria and bringing him on that husband or a spouse visa, versus the 90 day before concept. So that being said, it did take some time even after that, but it did work and they did finally get here. And he did just get here a couple of days, I think, before Christmas of 2023. And then everything kind of just exploded from there. Now, that being said, it makes sense that he would want to make sure that that would be the pathway that they can go, because always the first thing that's said is, I could send you back wherever you come from, right? We've seen this happen in other 90-day franchise elements with other couples where the situation did not work out for whatever the purpose is, whether the person was actually being stiffed by the person coming over or not. It's irrelevant. It's one of the tactics that is usually used, that if it didn't work out, you know, in this situation, then I'm going to not only just get rid of the situation, I'm also going to send you back to your home country as well. And so that's not surprising to me. Additionally, if I'm not mistaken, in this process, there is a obligation, if you, I guess, sign the right paperwork associated with that, you know, you could actually be on the hook for 10 years for an individual that you do bring over. So you do need to be very careful that, of course, the individual you are bringing over, it is for all legitimate reasons. So that may also play a part in that as well. Now, the freezing of the funds, I mean, quite frankly, if they are going through these litigation procedures, the actual situation set up for the funding is her bank account, right? I don't think Michael has had any ability at this point to actually even really start working here legally, residentially, if you want to say. And so therefore, if he didn't have all these things in place, everything's relied on her anyway. So it makes sense on that. Whether that's what it is for her situation, I really don't know. But that does make sense to me if that is the case. So yeah, I mean, of course, she needs to protect her assets and her finances. Of course, if Michael is doing things that are unscrupulous and, of course, unethical and illegal, then, you know, he should be dealt with in that manner. I don't know if that's the case here for this relationship situation. All I know is that they do not seem like they're a happy couple, and they do not seem like a couple that should be together. I think at this point, you need to kind of get your situations together and just part your ways. Now, the problem is money, right? Money is the issue here. The time that was spent, the integration that was spent. I have a lot of compassion for an individual in that positioning where you do go through the lengths of bringing someone over and having them integrate into your family. And that would be Angela in that perspective, right? I think that she had this idea of how things were going to lay out, but I think that there was a huge controlling element in their relationship. And that's just saying it to be lightly. And at the end of the day, Michael, regardless of his age, is a grown man, and he's going to do what a grown man or grown person is going to do, which is in most cases what they want to do. Okay. And so I cannot imagine anyone having those kind of restrictive conversations with Angela. Angela is a type of spirit, in my opinion, that will do whatever she wants to do. So therefore, no one's going to tell her anything. I'm pretty sure she's probably said something similar to that in some kind of scene on one of these shows. And therefore, it makes sense that there would be this push and pull coming from Michael, because this relationship was one that really should not have standed any kind of test of time, and I don't think it will. So hopefully we're at the end of that situation. I don't see no reconciliation either. I don't think a reconciliation will be helpful for anybody, but I do wish Angela well, and I wish Michael well. I think that they just need to do well on their own. You know, out of sight, out of mind will work. But look, at the same time, Angela's on the show. She makes probably pretty good money. Michael, maybe now that he's in the States, can get some of that money, I guess, because when they typically would share that the only people who actually was getting paid was those who were the Americans in the country. The ones that were bringing over were not getting money because they're not legal to work. You know, the legality aspect of it is not there in place for them to work. I think that's kind of how it is. If you know more, definitely share it below. You know, I think that that's how that works a little bit though. But so either way, it is definitely a choice that you're going through. You're walking in it, hopefully with eyes wide open. I don't think Angela is the type of person who would go into something without researching it thoroughly, because at the end of the day, she's also making sure that she can protect herself. She does probably have a huge, I would say, role in raising her 6 grandkids. I'm not 100% sure if she's doing that solely on her own or not, but she does have a huge connection in doing that. And I do believe they live with her. So there's a lot of responsibility there. And I commend her on the ability to do that. It is not easy, obviously, raising families as well. But I never thought Michael was ever going to be a fit for that situation. You know, there was a lot that she brought to the table, and I just didn't see Michael as a single man being in that position and with no prospects of having his own. I just didn't see the connection for that. However, he did say he was connected, so I got to take him at his word. He did feel a connection, or I guess a love for family with the grandchildren. They are children, and you know, look, we're bringing them along for the ride too. So I hope that they do find some sense of peace in this situation, because that's definitely what is needed. But a relationship with these two, no mas. Who knows if they can get themselves out of the midst of the toxicity of this situation. Maybe the right person is just right around the corner for either one of them. Definitely focusing on themselves and getting themselves together is definitely priority one, in my opinion. So I definitely would love to know yours respectfully down below. Go ahead and share how you think, what you think about, you know, this sharing, and also Porsha and Simon sharing. And yeah, any little tidbits that I may not have covered in this conversation. I'm sure there's many of things that I did not touch on that may be related to both of these sharings that you may be aware. Feel free to, you know, let us know down below what you may know, what you discovered or heard or listened to. But yeah, at this point, I think that it's definitely a wrap on this relationship. The question is, where is it going to go? How it's going to wrap up? But hopefully we'll do it soon. So that being said, I thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the time that you taken to hang out with me. I really do hope that you enjoyed the update and the conversation attached with it. So for sure, if you are new here, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel, be part of the family. I would still love to have you. And of course, if you appreciate the updates, please go ahead and think about, and then go ahead and give a like to the video, because it most certainly will help me, and I would most certainly appreciate that. And of course, I do have another video that will be popping up a little bit later. Maybe a little not too negative, I don't think, so that's good. So definitely make sure you have your all notification bells on so you don't miss it. I would definitely like to know your thoughts on that video as much as I would like to know your thoughts on this one and the previous ones as well. Make sure you do check out the Real Housewives of New Jersey ones if that is something that you are into, and let me know your thoughts on those as well. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu for this video. You take care, be safe, and until next time, bye.